Welcome everyone to Spoiler Warning. You are back with myself, Tom Colohue, and we are going to be talking, of course, wrestling news. There's plenty we're going to be covering today, so strap yourselves in because there is a lot to be going over, and I'm very interested to know what's of most interest to you as a viewer in the following headlines. So, we're going to be talking Drew McIntyre, where his layout for his contract is and what his potential moves might be when it comes to the draft. We're going to be talking Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, their position on the Raw banner, where they're going to be going post-draft, and in fact, if one of them isn't getting drafted at all, we're going to be talking about Seth Rollins' injury, including his return schedule, bear with me, and how this means that the WWE are not currently pursuing a contract deal for him. We're going to be talking about when Becky Lynch's original break was going to be scheduled for and how long it would be. We're going to be talking Cody Rhodes. There's a report I've just seen come out from the Wrestling Blog, which is not a source I'm familiar with, stating that only the mid-card titles have been mentioned as swapping sides. Not the case at all. Cody Rhodes is in conversation depending on where they're going to move him, back to Raw with the championship or to SmackDown. We're going to be talking about the WWE releases, why they were released and how many might be left to come, and that includes of course reference to Von Wagner, who's been reported to have left the company by Fightful. We're going to be talking Liv Morgan's big moment, whether tonight or shortly afterwards. Plenty of rumours from particular areas that I've not seen any sourced information for, that Alexa Bliss is coming back. I'll give you a hint about what I'm going to be talking about. I ain't heard she's coming back. As well as Chad Gable's bio stating SmackDown, thanks but no thanks, from WWE superstars to Rossi Ogawa's Marigold, Ospreay and the regrets that he has over the promo that he cut, Mercedes money going after the TBS title, and a good old-fashioned WTF to Goldberg. Let me know which of those are of most interest to you so that in future I'll know which headline to make our main news. Meanwhile, I'm going to say a massive thank you to everyone who's already joined us. Be sure to hit like. We have 48 people already and only the 20 likes, so please do remember to hit that thumbs up if you can, and I will be going through the questions and checking in with everyone as well as we do the news. So stick around and welcome everyone. Noob says, hello Mr. Colohue, how are you doing today? Doing well, thank you. Martin says, good evening Tom and all in chat, hope all is well. All going well for me personally, I'll definitely say that, Martin. And Jess says, hey Tom and everyone in chat. Eric says, Tom, do you have any news on Hook's contract? I do not. That is not something I have a source for. Spider-Boss says, I'm interested in Liv Morgan's heel run. I hope she wins tonight. I did, of course, report when Liv Morgan returned that she would be going heel and her real push would be after WrestleMania. We've very much seen that kick in now. Leon says, hi, Tom and chat. Hope you're all doing well. Doing very well. Thank you, Leon. Nice to see you. Thank you, Ricky. Appreciate that. Michael says, hi, Tom. Henry says, hi, Tom. Welcome, both of you. Welcome to the show. Spider-Boss says, I was sad about Xia Li leaving. You know I really liked her, Tom. You have a type, mate, and it's very clear. Henry Crinkle, nope, I don't need to co-host anyone else's show, I've got my own. Wants to say, Tom, according to SRS The Enemy, AEW looks to be letting Jeff Hardy go. Interesting. As I mentioned previously, WWE are not believed to have any interest in Jeff Hardy, and I did mention that Matt Hardy would be going back to TNA. That, of course, has now come to fruition as well. We will be talking about that one, David. Yes, we will. Wiggly says, also Jinder Mahal, a divisive one in terms of his title reign, but it was funny at times, and I'm sure he'll do okay whether in TNA or AEW. I suspect TNA will be where he lands. AEW are currently looking to let go of people rather than obtain people. Spider-Boss says, I guess people are speculating about Alexa Bliss's return because Raw will be in Alexa's home state of Columbus, Ohio. Naturally, that means that The Miz is going to be heavily featured, and so is Dolph Ziggler, right? Michael says, I think you should know that what I'm interested in the most. Obviously, Goldberg. Stick around, mate. I'll make sure that you get all the Goldberg news you're looking for. Wiggly says, I think Jinder's time just came to a natural end. More on that soon. Joey says, hey, Tom, do you expect any big name releases or will it only be people that aren't on TV? More on that soon. Counterfeit says, hey, Tom, who do you think will win the title? More on that soon. Joey says, does WWE not want to work with Marigold now? Didn't say that. Didn't say that at all. More on that shortly. Oh. Thank you, Wiggly, for the clarification. I appreciate that. Carl says, hey, Tom, hope you're well. I find it ironic that the first person outside the Bloodline solo got attacked was Kevin Owens, who has a huge connection to the downfall of the Bloodline. Indeed, Kevin Owens being the first target is very good for the Bloodline, not so good for Kevin Owens. Jess says, I can't believe they hindered Jinder. Marcel says, hi Tom and chat, hope you are all well. Welcome Marcel, good to see you mate. There'll be plenty more, I'll be sure to catch up with the chat, but I want to get on to my first piece of news now. At the moment we have 62 people watching and 28 likes. 2 more gets up to 30 likes and 2 more will bring us in at least 2 more viewers. As I mentioned previously, every like guarantees an increase in viewers, and the more viewers we have, the more sustainable these shows are long term, because the more income I get, and obviously the more people are watching, the more the word is spread. We've been doing very good work on Twitter in that regard as well. As regards Drew McIntyre, there are reports from PWInsider that his contract will be wrapping up in 5 or so weeks. This would mean he is not at Clash at the Castle. I can confirm there are plans in place to ensure that Drew McIntyre does wrestle at Clash at the Castle. There are consistently reports out there that Drew McIntyre has not signed a new WWE deal, and to my knowledge that is still the case, but I expect a deal to be announced in and around Clash time. The WWE are only interested in ensuring that Drew McIntyre stays with the company. It's not about money, because they can offer all of that. It's about championship reigns. The injury to CM Punk essentially guarantees that. However, Drew McIntyre has been removed from the Raw banner, suggesting that Drew McIntyre might be being considered for a move to SmackDown. If that's the case, the only logical choice would be for Cody Rhodes to move to Raw, and of course Cody Rhodes at the moment is not defined on a brand. He is ostensibly a SmackDown star because, to put it simply, he's got the SmackDown World Championship. With a draft coming up, anything can happen. I do suspect Cody Rhodes will be the number 1 draft pick, so personally I do think he's going to SmackDown. That does not necessarily mean that Drew McIntyre isn't, even though CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre has been mentioned a number of times. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's all going to be about the championship. The logical next steps for McIntyre are staying on Raw, taking on and defeating Damian Priest at Clash at the Castle, and then successfully defending that championship against CM Punk at SummerSlam. After that, all bets are off. Oh, already up to 40 likes. Fantastic, guys. Keep those rolling in. Sid says, I went crazy when the lights went out and Broken Matt Hardy returned to TNA. I'm a big fan of Broken Matt Hardy. Aled says, hey, Tom, how are you? And do you know anything about the PWInsider report, which with Jacob Fatu is reportedly set to debut in WWE within the next 2 weeks? I'm good, thank you, Aled. Very good, in fact. Continuing to get good news about the house, which I'm still very nervous, but things are going well, so good news there. As regards PWInsider report on Jacob Fatu, I've not heard it myself, but what I will say is that what I have heard is that they're essentially keeping Jacob Fatu in the background while they essentially teach him how to work the WWE style. Tama Tonga took a little while to pick that up, but it doesn't look like Jacob Fatu will take as long, so promising signs there. Khalid says, hey Tom, great to see you again, mate. I met Cody Rhodes and Drew last week. Friday had a fun time. It sounds it, mate. It sounds it. Rick is excited for any and all Roman news. All I've really got on Roman at this point in time is that the reason he's not tweeting is not because he's playing the character, it's because in general he's not really a fan of Twitter. DM says if The Rock is not facing Cody at SummerSlam, Randy is the best and biggest option to face Cody to have a mega main event. And these are, of course, good options available, but it would mean a heel turn in that direction. When it comes to Cody Rhodes and SummerSlam, I'm leaning more towards Gunther. More on that later. Michael says, please retire Chance to Jericho. Last night was like music to my ears. He is not popular right now. Shifty says, what's up, Tom? What's up, Shifty? And Wiggly says, I don't read that. Bailey says, any long-term plans of NXT announcing an event at the UFC facility in Las Vegas? Long-term, no. Short-term, yes. The WWE and UFC, in fact TKO in general, are interested in sharing facilities to try and essentially save money while ensuring a larger audience. However, it won't be a larger audience because the facility is quite small. There's a lot of working out that needs to be done, but WWE trying to get their performance center back, essentially. Joey says, were WWE not happy with the way Von Wagner worked out? Is that why he was let go? More on that later. The answer is going to be no to that one, though. No, Wiggly, I will not. You know how this works. You ask me every time, and it does not happen. Gal says, to be honest, I think Jinder didn't have much going for him other than an impressive physique, and I think we're past the days of that being the only thing needed to be a WWE performer. Joey says, it looked that way in the tweet. Maybe I misread it. Joe, I'm going to scroll back. Which tweet are you referring to? Because I believe it actually came from Fightful Select, so behind a paywall. Counterfeit says, I would assume it is a low-key high chance that Liv would win, but they may give us a swerve and give it to Nia or Becky if she comes. Becky will be there tonight. Spider-Boss says, go home, Jericho, go home chance last night in music for my ears. Marcel says, please all like for Tom. Appreciate you, Marcel. Up to 43 already. And we're just about to hit 80 viewers. 2 more gets us to 45 likes. Alan says, Tom, do you know if Bryan Danielson is actually injured or is it a work? It was a work for the match. Roger says, do you think Will Ospreay versus Bryan Danielson is match of the year? It was a great match. Haven't watched it yet. Won't have the chance until a couple more days because I'm very busy in the day, Joe, unfortunately. Gal says, could we potentially see either Jay going to SmackDown or Jimmy goes Raw? I feel like there's more for them to explore. I suspect Jay goes back to wherever the Bloodline is, so they can now tell, again, the Bloodline Civil War. And Cal says, hopefully we see a promo or more about the Bo Dallas Uncle Howdy. We will, but it will continue to be teasers. I've given you a time frame on that, and it's around about before SummerSlam. Next up, we're talking Seth Rollins, we're talking Becky Lynch. Now, Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch are in fact still on the new Raw banner, and from what I can tell, there's no intention to have them switch sides. Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins likely to remain on the Raw brand, but what I will say is at the moment with the injury to Seth Rollins, it sounds like he's not going to be drafted at all. They are considering using the option of not drafting him and leaving him as a quote-unquote free agent, which would mean that things flow a little bit easier when it comes to working out how to display people as top draws and top picks, while also ensuring that Raw and SmackDown get the right people. So they need to balance out, for example, to make sure that Gunter doesn't get picked before Becky Lynch, as an example there. Rollins is thus unlikely to be drafted, though that of course is subject to change given the draft rules. The injury does mean that Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch's contracts are no longer in sync. The injury to Seth Rollins will be added to the length of his contract, meaning that Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins are no longer negotiating as a unit. The WWE is in fact not focused on a new contract for Seth Rollins at this point in time because they don't think they need to for a while. Instead, the WWE are putting all of their focus on Drew McIntyre and Becky Lynch. As regards Seth's return schedule, it sounds like he's going to be out until, at the earliest, Survivor Series. With that in mind, Triple H and the creative team look likely to choose the Royal Rumble as the big traditional return schedule for Seth Rollins. I expect to see Seth Rollins in next year's Royal Rumble. Now, if he does return at the Royal Rumble, and this is part of their thinking, his current contract would allow him to work from the Royal Rumble until WrestleMania, if WrestleMania next year was once again in early April. So they would be able to essentially use him from the Royal Rumble until WrestleMania if he was still on his way out, which at the moment, technically, he still is. As regards Becky Lynch's break, it was only planned to last until the draft. She is essentially back a week early, but she was asked to come back a week early to add extra star power to the Battle Royal on Raw tonight. Spider-Ball says, whose house? Swerve's house. Congratulations to the new AEW World Champion, Swerve. Leon says, never been a fan of the broken Matt Hardy gimmick. I haven't as either, to be fair. I don't really understand it, and I definitely don't think it was well played in WWE. But we are where we are with that one, in different strokes for different folks. DM says Drew needs to remain on Raw and win the world title to become Raw's top heel, and Punk 2 Cody has spoiled his moving to SmackDown. He has not necessarily spoiled it, he has accepted the rules as they are current. There's plenty more that can happen when it comes to the draft. One says, hey Tom, according to TK himself, last night he said Mercedes money won't be cleared till Double or Nothing. Thoughts? She has been cleared, but she's not 100% ring fit and she's getting back to fitness. That's Tony Khan protecting her, and I don't blame him. Cal says, to be honest, I'm hoping Roman's having a good break because damn, he deserves it. Do you think there's a chance we see him soon? Yes, but not in wrestling. Razar says, Cody has always felt like a Raw guy, to be honest. Also in the draft pool split to 2 groups, one for Friday and the other on Monday. Yeah, that's one of the clever ways that they use in order to avoid making people feel like lower name draws. This is, of course, the first draft that does not feature Vince McMahon planning it. Stephanie McMahon apparently has a voice in it as well. So I do expect CM Punk will be part of the draft committee, essentially one of the people reading out the names. I also really like the idea that he would read out the name of Drew McIntyre. It also means, of course, CM Punk could be one who doesn't get drafted either. Martin says, out of the loop, who's been released? So a couple of people lower down the card actually do have a bit of news on this. Jinder Mahal is likely the biggest name, though Indus Sher went as well. Xia Li and Zion Quinn have also left the company, and that is not all. There are plenty more names that haven't come out as of yet, as I've reported on Twitter a couple of days ago. Yeah, I want to say the day of the releases. Now, firstly, I'm glad to see that that's been confirmed, but now today via Fightful, Von Wagner has been released as well. Now, when it comes to the reason for these releases, it's relatively simple reasoning. The WWE, particularly Triple H and Brian Gewirtz and the creative team, sat down to work out the draft, and they realized that there were significant names that they were completely leaving off any plans repeatedly, and in fact names that they had struggled to get into the planning book this time last year as well. Some of those names were Jinder Mahal, were Von Wagner, and in fact were Gable Steveson. So there's a few people that the WWE are looking to release. I have not been able to confirm if Gable Steveson is gone, but to be fair, he's not on a paid contract unless he actually appears anyway, so that wouldn't be costing them any money. The WWE essentially then kicked in with budget cuts, stating to the individuals in question that it's just time and we are not going to use you, so you might as well go somewhere else and see what you can do to continue your career. There is apparently issues with Jinder Mahal when he got that call. He was not particularly happy, and he's vocalized that pretty clearly when it comes to the good old-fashioned Twitter. Sounds like he's been calmed down since, but he was not at all happy. Essentially, there were no plans for these individuals. The WWE simply did not believe that long-term they had the star power required to be bigger names, and instead, when you consider that we've removed Xia Li and got Jade Cargill, the WWE are pretty happy overall with the talent on the roster, and they are just now creating space for names like Roxanne, Bron Breakker, and Ilya Dragunov to be called up. Alan says, what do you think happens at Mania 41? Roman versus Rock or Cody versus Rock? Because I've heard both being mentioned on X. Yeah, well, when you say people mentioned on X, it's not really confirmation of any sort of, sourcing in there. What I will say when it comes to WrestleMania 41, that's having a lot of say as regards what happens with Cody and in fact what happens with Drew McIntyre. As I've mentioned, it is not the case that only mid-card titles are being discussed to swap sides. Every championship has been discussed and every individual has been discussed as potentially swapping between Raw, SmackDown and NXT. And yes, they naturally discussed the possibility of moving one of the big world championships to NXT. It was dismissed out of hand, but they discussed it. Shifty says, source PW Showdown. I'm guessing that's just another random Twitter account. Said, Sami Zayn is scheduled to be backstage on SmackDown Friday. Anything on that? Yeah, everyone is. It's the draft. Everyone will be backstage for the draft. Every single wrestler has been called in to be available to potentially be backstage for the draft. It's not news. Joey says, I wonder if Hulk's contract could be up soon since he dropped the title to Jericho last night. Zayn says it was great to see Mike Santana and Sami Callihan and Matt Hardy returned to TNA. DM says, I think they're saving Cody versus Gunther versus Cody for Bash at Berlin. We'll have to wait and see there. And so I don't think that'd be Cody because Cody's a face. And if you go to Bash at Berlin, then Gunther's the face. Selvig says, hello Tom, hope you're doing well. Wanted to ask if Roman, Rock and injured ones like Sonya and Seth will be part of the draft. There'll be a number that will not be. The Rock definitely won't be part of the draft. It looks like Seth might not be because of the injury, and there's a number of others who are likely to remain free agents because they don't have plans for them until they return from injury. We have 97 people watching and 50 likes, 50 thumbs ups. Can you keep that ball rolling? Because we are this close to 100 concurrent viewers, 100 people watching at one time. A few more likes will get us there. It will get us there. So if you're able to, please hit like and let me know when you do. Oh, gotcha, Joey. Yeah, I'll tell you more on that one shortly. King Alice says, Tom, I would have held off Swerve's title win until All In. It would have been a bigger moment. All In will be Ospreay's moment. Alan says, Matt Hardy said he's still a free agent, which surprises me. I would have thought TNA would have signed him. That doesn't necessarily mean he wants to be signed by TNA. From what I can tell, he's there while actively negotiating with other companies. Spider-Boss says, I wonder if Roman will stay on SmackDown. I don't suspect he'll be drafted. Ayush says, any free agents WWE interested in signing? Quite a few, though it isn't usually free agents that they're looking to sign. It's more people that are currently wrestling who they're just waiting to make available. For example, the entirety of House of Black. Dane says that Sheamus has gone back to his old theme music, Too Many Limes. Yes, he has. Cal says there is some sort of Wire 6 which is currently being rumoured. Surely Bo Dallas, Rowan and Alexa Bliss are all members. I feel like they could tell a good story here which could be a tribute to Bray. Cal, what I want you to do is look at the spoiler warning playlist on this here channel. If you scroll back, I think 3 shows to the beginning of last week, you will find in-depth news on what's going to happen with the Bray Wyatt tribute and the Wyatt 6. Now, so say, Tom, any news on Finn? Not at this point in time. I've shared all the news I possibly can or have on Finn Balor. Dylan says, according to PWInsider, Jacob Fatu is debuting as early as this week's SmackDown. That is what they've reported, yes. Razar says, oh wow, Seth really messed his knee up if he's gone till November. Maybe working WrestleMania hurt wasn't a good idea. They did offer him the opportunity to not do that. He decided he was going to do that. The other Mike says, why they can't focus on more than one or negotiations at a time. They can, but they are limited in what their options are because every time there's a contract signing, they also need to do a financial analysis to see the impact that it has on that. Nick Khan's very thorough, basically. DM says, will Drew McIntyre's elbow injury force him to take time off? Eventually, yes, but this is Drew McIntyre. When he picked up a serious knee injury, he waited 2 years to take time off. That's who he is. Spadabell says, I never got the broken Matt Hardy character. I've always been more a fan of Jeff. I think Jeff Hardy will go back to TNA. Joey says, do you know what's going on with Camille? Has she signed with anyone yet? Not to my knowledge, but I've never had any sources as regards Camille. Sid says, Anthony Joshua and Wayne Rooney were at WWE Live at the O2 in London. Drew McIntyre could have promo on Wayne Rooney, and so he should. It's Drew McIntyre. It's what you do. Last time Wayne Rooney attended a show, he slapped Wade Barrett in the face. Jess says, saw someone on Reddit called Von Wagner Neanderthal Edge, and I wonder why that wasn't his gimmick now. Derivative? Razar says, I thought the last draft was a bit uneven. Felt like all the top men went to Raw and all the top women went to SmackDown. Hope things are more evened out this time. They definitely did have a problem when it came to the women on Raw. I'm looking at maybe a Bianca Belair and a Jade Cargill going to Raw. That wouldn't surprise me. Moises was surprised Von Wagner got released. Shifty says, anything on Raw tonight? A little bit on the Battle Royal coming. And Moises says Gable Steveson is not needed. Mustafa says, I do like this potential new Bloodline versus Bloodline Classic coming along. I just really don't want it to become the United Colours of NWO like WCW devolved into. It's not taking over the show, and I think that's the big difference. The Bloodline is not taking over the show. Joey says, I felt like Von Wagner was going to be the face of 2.0 since Vince was really high on him. Vince be gone. Moises says, Jinder had a great start to the year. They should have pushed him as a mid-carder. Yeah, they didn't. In fact, the only reason he got the championship match is because Seth asked to work with him. There's a bit of fun for you. Cal says, Jinder and Heath Slater should go to TNA and form the two-man band instead of the 3MB. DM says, I think CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre should main event WrestleMania Night 1. Story is so good and will only get better, and if they face off on SummerSlam, Drew should destroy Punk to drag the feud. Personally, I would think that Seth versus CM Punk is still where they want to go. Spider-Boss says, I think Cody will go to SmackDown in the draft. Eric says, congratulations to Ruby and Angelo Parker. Steve says, hey, Tom, watching on delay. You are, of course, very welcome, Steve. Always appreciate it. There's quite a few people now who will dip in, let me know they're watching on delay, and then rewind the show. If there is a piece of news you're interested in that's already been shown, by all means, zip back for that. Razal says, I thought Xia Li had a lot of potential. I really liked her work in NXT. Aled wants Roman to go to Raw. Ken says, hey, Tom, do you think Roxanne stays in NXT or goes to the main roster? I think she goes to the main roster myself. Angel says, Liv Morgan is the right choice to win tonight. Snee Vegas. Been a little while, mate, and you don't forget your joke, do you? Will Naked Midian be in the draft? Ace says, do you think NXT lacks star power? Because if they move to CW, they will also want some stars. CW are happy with the people that they have. Also, as first reported by Tom Colohue, there will be main roster talent moving to NXT. King Azza says, Tom, is the Bloodline angle with Solo being the leader the Bloodline is building to Roman's big return? Yeah. Spider-Man says, I wonder if the Judgment Day will remain together. Rhea was the heart and soul of the Judgment Day. Not for too much longer, no. Cal says, I'll watch that, Tom. Thank you. I missed the last spoiler warning because of work commitments. I'm passionate, especially when it comes to the Wyatt story, as Bray had such an influence on me. You're not alone, mate. You're not alone. Sid said, I'd rather have kept Xia Li than signed Jade Cargill. Says Xylee can wrestle unlike Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill can definitely wrestle. Agendas, mate, agendas. Rayon says, will CM Punk ever get a babyface world title moment? He has sold more t-shirts online than Cody since he returned. I think Punk is the only babyface that rivals Cody in every box office metric. You're not wrong. And he will get his moment. Roger, thank you for that update. As weird as it does sound to anyone who isn't familiar with some of the issues I've had with the stream lately, I do appreciate Roger letting me know that the stream is still working perfectly. If we do have any issues, let me know. And hey, if it's working perfectly, let me know. It's good for the chat rate. Spadabell says some people got mad after Tony Storm's comment last night in the media scrum. I've already responded to it on Twitter. Nobody attacked the WWE more than Cody Rhodes, and he's now their champion. Steve says, do you suppose Veer is planning to come Tuesday? Ew. Joey says, do you think Vince being involved in the draft last year screwed up plans, or did Triple H still get his way? It screwed up plans, but Triple H still mostly got his way. Angel says, why isn't AEW using Saraya? Because at the moment they're using different wrestlers. Wiggly says, I'm sure me and you, Tom, both not huge fans of Wayne Rooney. Seems alright. Noob says, I'm shocked on what Tama Tonga did on Friday night. Nearly destroyed KO. He's bleeding out like crazy. Hope Jacob Fatu would do something crazy to KO. Shifty says, do you know the winner for the Women's Battle Royal tonight? Nope. Jess says, Jinder isn't great in the ring, but he always gets a reaction. Makes me wonder why they keep other people on TV who get crickets when they come out. Because those people are people that they're developing. So they will keep people who they think have a future, but if someone's been there for years, they will usually let them go. Ayo says, has Ricky Starks signed a new contract with AEW, or is he interested in WWE? I've not heard anything on Ricky Starks. Roger says, do you watch any other wrestling company other than WWE? Occasionally I'll dip into an AEW pay-per-view. I was at All in Wembley, for example. Other than that, I mostly watch New Japan. Juan says, suppose the Motor City Machine Guns are potentially AEW's replacement for the Hardys, since PWInsider reported that they are likely heading there. I'd imagine that there is no such thing as a direct replacement for a tag team that is different people. Ryan says, I'm not a big fan of babyface versus babyface, but has there been discussion of Cody versus Punk? That to me is the only exception. Not right now, though there was discussion of them being a tag team briefly. Koo said, do you see DIY winning tonight? I'm not going to share any spoilers because I don't have any spoilers. Roger says, I want Natalya to win the women's title. I know it won't happen. Robin Dave says, hey Tom, I'm here. How are you doing, buddy? Doing well, thank you, Robin Dave. Welcome to the show. Fun fact, we are 1 like away from 60. If you can keep that ball rolling, I'd appreciate it. Leon says, any updates on Finn's contract? Nothing that I can report right now. Dylan says, do you think the Bloodline will go to Raw because Jay is on Raw, plus they've done all they can on SmackDown? They've done a lot on SmackDown, but all they can when they're starting a brand new story? Not quite true. Hector says, with Rhea probably not being drafted either due to injury, who could you see benefiting and being called up or drafted due to her absence? I don't think anyone will be called up due to her absence, not absinthe, but I do think the main benefactor will be Liv Morgan. Razar says, do you know why Bobby and the Street Profits Graham don't have a name yet? I remember the Pride was rumoured, but that's never been made official. No, I'm not aware of that, and it could be that they just don't want to. Carl says, has to be said, credit to Joe, is a great title run, gave the belt, would love to see him have one last run in TNA. He's always been a great performer, and he rocks a raincoat. We will see Samoa Joe back in WWE. Wiggly says, any news on who the AEW releases might be? Quite a lot of news, but nothing I can report at this point in time, because I don't want to prejudice certain outcomes. Bismo says, hey Tom, good to see you on this Monday. I had to rewind a bit since I missed 20 minutes at the beginning. Fair enough, Bismo. By all means, rewind and enjoy him when you get to this level. Hi. Moises says, Tom, do you think Matt Riddle will be back in the WWE someday? Nope. Robin Dave says, I'm sad we don't see our tribal chief till August, at least around August. And Steve Vegas is making the Veer joke. Dylan says, Tom, I heard there were rumours saying WWE want Las Vegas for WrestleMania 41 next year. Those rumours come directly from The Undertaker. Shifty's putting over a source. I've not heard of them. Jessica, the entire show is based on communication. There are questions that I don't answer at times, and there's also questions that I openly say I don't have any information on that. But this is a question and answer show. In addition to the news, which I will continue to read out as we get it, there is always going to be an element of question and answer because I want to know what you guys are interested in. What are you guys invested in? That then informs the videos that I make as well. So I really do appreciate all the questions. If you have any, Jessica, jump in. Gomar says, is Jimmy likely being drafted to Raw for a potential face turn? Not sure, but I do see the Usos reuniting. Angel says, if someone else wins a Battle Royal tonight, do you think the winner is dropping the title to Liv Morgan? More on that very shortly. Alan says, when is Samoa Joe's contract up? Do you know? You now have me intrigued. I don't have that exact information, no. Rayan says, on the babyface side, outside of Cody, Tom, how would you rank the levels of top babyfaces? Is Punk going to Raw with Netflix? What is the relationship between Drew and Punk? They both have chemistry. They like each other. As regards Netflix, I've been asked this question a few times. I just want to point out, Netflix are not going to sit there and say, we want all the top talent, because they have all the top talent just outside of America. So they have everyone and everything. Let's not forget that. As regards ranking baby faces, Seth would be after Cody Rhodes. Maggie says, hey Tom from Scotland, do you think they'll adhere to the draft this year? Because they don't normally. Triple H is actually not a fan of the draft in general. Nick Khan likes it because it's a way of making extra money and driving extra traffic to the show, so I can't blame him. Coot says, do you see Sheamus being drafted to whatever brand the IC title is drafted to? Yeah. And Jess says, they'll also miss our tribal chief, Rhea Ripley. Ray says, who do you want to see get called up to the main roster from NXT? Roxanne, I've mentioned a few times, and I think Cora Jade will find her way there eventually. Braun Breaker needs to be called up at this point, as does Ilya and Carmelo Hayes. Joey says, I've got a feeling Apollo Crews and Dexter Lumis may have been some of the other cuts. Dexter Lumis has not been seen for a long time, and as I mentioned previously, the creative team on the main roster have absolutely no idea what to do with him. Eric says, do you think Ali will come back? Eventually, yes, because he will become undeniable. Spider-Boss says, Bayley versus Naomi was good until Tiffany got involved. Do you think we could see a triple threat at Backlash? We could. AJ says, do you think we see more blood and curse in WWE? Yes. Robin Dave says, do you know exactly when AJ Styles' contract is up? No. Jessica is trolling. Says, why do you ask so many questions? And then calls me a liar. Here's the thing, Jessica. You asked why so many questions. I answered you. If you think I'm lying about answering questions, what the hell? But yes, we have ourselves a troll who clearly is a new name. What I would like to say to everyone, please do remember, say hi to the troll. Always say hi to the troll. And then say bye to the troll. Maggie says, I'm missing Roman, but look forward very much to his return. Let the excitement build. AH said, any plans on Gallus? I want them in a faction with Drew. I do not have that information at this point in time. Khalid has got an advert. Thank you, Khalid, for letting me know. Maggie says, thank you. Appreciate that. Wants to say, Tom, I know you're not interested in it, but Thursday, TK will be drafting his next players for the Jaguars. Could not care less. Bailey says, I can see why Triple H doesn't like the draft because it can upend longer-term booking already underway. Yep, or to be fair, if you're the one planning it, it cannot do that. That's always an option. Liv Morgan's going to have a big moment tonight. Liv Morgan is certainly the fan favourite, and for a while she was the betting favourite to become the Women's World Champion. In the last few hours, Becky Lynch has overtaken Liv Morgan as a betting favourite to become the Women's World Champion. Personally, I think this is an interesting one, and I do think it goes a little long term. The plan was at Backlash, we would see Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan, essentially with the match, which would have been last week, coming to a false finish or something dodgy. Liv Morgan would not have won the championship from Rhea Ripley. She would have just been put over in defeat as best they could make happen. Now, Becky Lynch has repeatedly asked to work with Liv Morgan, and even though Liv Morgan has not beaten Becky Lynch is more than happy to be beaten. Personally, I think the most likely scenario is that Becky Lynch becomes the women's champion, Liv Morgan defeats her for the championship at Backlash. Though I also think this is a prime opportunity for someone lower down the card to get the moment. It would have to be a face, and it would have to be someone with decent credentials. I'm not sure who that might be, but I do think Natalia's not a bad shout. Dylan says it's not relevant, but do you think they'll make reference to Roman being in Hollywood when he returns? Yes. Get some more attention. Ramon apparently really doesn't like the Big Show. Jess says, anything on Natalia? Some Twitterers have been saying her contract is up soon. It is, but soon is relative. Cal says, this is my opinion, no source is nothing. I'd like to see Roman return to save Heyman from Solo or Tamatonga. It would be nice for him to save the man who saved his wrestling career. His words, not mine. Pardon me. I do think that's a good shout and would really endear him to the crowds, give them that face turn, but you need to really build towards it. Wiggly, it's a wrestling stream. Wrestling stream. Lot of high troll. Jess saying, come on Jessica, you're making us other Jessicas look bad. Nicely played. Moises says, makes me wonder why they even rehired Loomis. Triple H did have plans. Then there was a Vince McMahon. Ryan says, Tom, rough estimate guessed, what do you see Punk and Cody doing on SmackDown? They've both been advertised for the draft. As they say, Cody will be there as champion and likely as top pick. I suspect CM Punk will be reading out the cards. Quite possibly, Joey. You always see quite a bit when it comes to that. Snee Vegas lives under a bridge. Who lives in a bridge, but they're not a troll. Snee Vegas TV. Joey says they must be really bored with their lives. Shifty says, will Paul Heyman still be with Roman when he returns? Likely, yes. David says the draft will probably take a hit in the ratings Friday since it's going up against the second night of the NFL draft. It is, but they will be using the draft term in order to guarantee SEO. So in order to guarantee that people look at their show, they will just get a load of internet traffic. It's quite clever. Roger says Ryan Nemeth will be working TNA to help his brother Nick Nemeth against the system. Okay, interesting. Khalid says we miss Rhea Ripley, but she will return. Isaiah says, is WWE officially calling the new era the Renaissance era? Nope, they're calling it the Triple H era. And Ramon says WWE no not. Spider-Boss says new era in WWE and Becky could win the women's world title. I thought the days of Becky winning titles were done. This is an extreme circumstance. There was not a plan for if Rhea Ripley became injured, and ultimately she would only win the championship to make Liv Morgan look better. Snee Vegas says, I think Santina Morea will become women's champ tonight. Her brother wants to come back to WWE, but he's busy in TNA. Dylan says, when do you see Alexa Bliss return? I personally see a return at SummerSlam, and I do want to talk about this one. Everything I've heard on Alexa Bliss tells me that she is going to be involved in the Bray Wyatt storylines. She is preparing for a return. She is getting gear made. To my knowledge, she is not ready for a return to the wrestling ring just yet. It's not impossible. It's not impossible at all that she pops up at some point tonight. Maybe just to make a backstage appearance. But she is not cleared, to my knowledge, to return to wrestling yet. Personally, from what I've heard, around SummerSlam time is much more likely. Angel says, do you think Paige will ever return to WWE? Probably not. Ayush thinks Loomis would be good with the Wyatt 6. Ken says, I just hope if Liv Morgan wins the title, they book her like a natural champion and not like her first reign. Alex says, Cody and AJ Styles have a contract signing on SmackDown. They announced it last week. Jess says, the big question we all answered, did we ever find out who kissed Punk on the lips when he came back? Pretty much everyone. The man likes to kiss dudes. Cal says it very much feels like the bloodline hits are being put out by a certain bald Samoan who's played a tooth fairy. However, I'm not naming names. Sid says Wardlow banged up after a car accident, so I've seen reported. Spider-Boss said there could be a meltdown on social media if Liv Morgan doesn't win the title tonight. Could be, and they will all continue with their lives. Shifty says, what's Gunter doing tonight? I would assume a feud with Sheamus. At the moment, it's mostly just about the return. They're building towards the draft, so I'd imagine he might be in a wrestling match. He might be making a beeline for Sami Zayn, more logically, but I do expect it's mostly to hype up the draft. Hello, Sean, and yes, for those who don't know, I am indeed a Slytherin when it comes to the world of Harry Potter. Mustafa says, why not have Punk come out to save Heyman as the OG Paul Heyman guy? Is Roman still out of appearances? Roman's appearances are extremely low, which is why he'll take a nice long break, as first reported by Tom Colohue. Isaiah says, will Julia feud with Roxanne for the NXT Women's Championship at Heatwave in her first debut? That's what's been mentioned. What I reported a couple of weeks ago is that Julia would debut in NXT and immediately take the place by storm. Joey says, do you know what the timeline will be for Rhea's return? I've mentioned on Twitter, my expectation is around SummerSlam time, we are likely to see Rhea return to the company. Maggie says, you had no idea how happy you've made me, Tom, when you said likely the wise man staying with Roman when he returns. Yeah, it's not just about what's on screen, it's also about what happens behind the scenes. The advocate role is real. Spider-Bell says, before Rhea got injured, I thought only Bianca could beat Rhea for the title. I stand by it. Moises says, I really hope it's not Becky who wins tonight. Eric says, any news on a Carmella return? She's been backstage several times lately. She is fit, she is healthy, she is cleared, and she'll return whenever they have a storyline ready for her. Kevin says, if Becky wins, only 2 horsewomen became champion in 2024. What happens to moving from the horsewomen new era? If Becky wins, once again, it's an extraneous circumstance. It is not the norm, and it was not the plan. Steve Vegas wants Joe Gacy in the Uncle Howdy faction. Jess says people clamouring for an Alexa return so early is crazy. She's only 5 months postpartum. Bismarck says, I wonder if Dexter Lumis would have worked well with Karrion Kross. I don't think they could work together. Blue says, I like Liv, but a part of her issue with her first reign was her work in the ring. She has definitely improved since. He was Sean, I can confirm that. Wiggly says, any idea what The Rock gave Cody that time? Nope. Wiggly says, I've already read that one. Spider-Man says, cry me a river chant after Jack Perry returned to AEW last night. I did say he was coming. Alad is excited for Adam Cole. Cal says, I hope we see Alexa Bliss throwing fireballs. It was one of the only memorable things about Lockdown. Robin Dave says, if anyone can make Roman a babyface and not forced, it's Triple H. Wants to say, Tom, after you reported the AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery negotiations aren't going good, today TK said, oh, they're going amazing. Why can't he be honest? Because if he says they're going terribly, that reduces the value of the company. This is normal. Maggie isn't a fan of Liv. Angel says Cody's apparently going to film the Naked Gun reboot, and I'm very jealous of him. Angel says, any news on Wesley? When will he return? I have no news there, unfortunately. Sean says, do you see Seth out for the rest of the year? News on Seth Rollins was earlier in the show. You can always sit back and check it out. Ryan says, Tom, do you think Punk will be one of the first picks for the draft either on Raw or SmackDown? Nope, I don't think he'll be drafted at all. Jess says, this is a real test for Liv. Time to see if her Twitter stands are right and she's really the best thing in women's wrestling. A Battle Royal doesn't really prove that. Isaiah says, will WWE host WrestleMania 42 at Las Vegas next year? That's asking me to make a massive prediction. Carl says, Roman said it himself at Heyman's Hall of Fame speech. With Heyman, without Heyman, there's no tribal chief. You said with Heyman, there's no tribal chief, so I'm going to correct you there. Blair says, what wrestling faction would have been good Ghostbusters? That's a very, very random and strange question. Tristan, thank you kindly for subscribing on the YouTube side. You'll get notifications whenever we go live. If you've not yet subscribed, please consider doing so. We do spoiler warning every Monday and every Friday, and we do plenty more content that you are likely to enjoy. Also, we now have 110 people watching, only 66 likes. 4 more gets us up to 70 likes. That would make a very big impact. So please, thumbs up when you join the show. Chad Gable's current bio reads SmackDown and not Raw. There is a complete reimagining of Chad Gable incoming, and it does look like SmackDown is his most likely destination, with the Creed brothers going with him. This would separate him from the Alpha Academy, though a separation from the Alpha Academy seems most likely at this point in time. The planning from WWE, essentially, they are stating that the Alpha Academy has run its course, the WWE and the creative team are looking to move on, as is Chad Gable. He is looking to get a pretty strong push, which could potentially mean some much bigger opponents for him, and could also speed the beginning of a face turn for Gunter. Spider-Boss said, I never got why WWE paired Carmella and Zelina Vega back in 2021, 2022, primarily because Sasha Banks wasn't going to wrestle. Dylan says, when do you expect The Rock to either turn on Roman or say that he's the reason behind what's been going on in the bloodline? I brush my seed. You brush your seed anyway. I think he will do that when he returns. And he doesn't know when he's returning yet, so we'll see how that goes. No, sure. Spider-Boss says, when Jack Perry held the books last night, I remember he said Jack Perry could join the Elite. Yep, that was the plan. Tristan says, it's hilarious to me a few people think Charlotte is coming back tonight even though she's recovering from an ACL injury. Yeah, a lot of people have really gotten into their own heads on this one. Charlotte Flair is not cleared to return, and yes, she's doing extremely well. She's still nowhere near close. Maggie says, poor Seth, wishing him a full and speedy recovery. Sid says, any news on Wendy Chu's return to NXT? Not at this point, that's gone really quiet. Sean says, does a Battle Royal main event Raw, you think? I think it should. Absolutely should. Blue says, who do you think the top heel and face for the women with Rhea out? The top face remains Becky Lynch. The top heel remains Nia Jax until they decide what to do with Liv Morgan. He said, is WWE planning to work with other companies? If yes, what are your guesses? I don't need guesses. I already know what companies they're planning to work with. They're looking to try and make it work with New Japan. However, that's kind of ruined by Marigold and Rossi Ogawa, but they are also looking to work more with TNA, and one of the reasons Matt Hardy popped up there is believed to be a way of working his way back into it. Maggie is powerbombing the likes. Selvig says, besides the 8 people you named for NXT call-ups, would there be more call-ups from NXT? Likely yes. No, Carl, it was not the chair shot. Dylan says, when do you see The Rock turning his back on Roman? I've already answered that one. Isaiah says, will Kyrie rumoured to have a singles push? If true, how will they book it? I've not seen Kyrie rumoured anywhere to have a singles push. Razar says, do the talent already know what brand they'll be on? Some do, some don't. Sparabel says, what title reign you wish could have lasted more? Mine, I wish Jeff Hardy's WWE title reign would have lasted more. I think Kane, when he first won the championship way back when, could have lasted for more than a day. Maggie says, love Chad, he deserves a push. Isaiah is saying Perch Gable. What he's meaning is Perk Gable. Jess says, any news on the bald Viking Raider? Eric is recovering well, he's just not quite ready yet. And Snee Vega says, Wendy Chu is busy sleeping. Jess is excited, we have 69 likes. Nice. Spider-Boss says, since Becky returns tonight, I think Becky could be on Liv's next target on her revenge tour. Yes. Angel says, what main roster stars do you see getting drafted to NXT? I've already answered that question in previous videos. When it comes to the draft, there is a lot still up in air, and it's not really been finalised yet. Maggie says, who's your pick for winning the Women's Battle Royal? Already answered that one. I think Becky Lynch will be winning it, and Liv Morgan will be winning the championship from her. Sean says, is it possible Seth and Becky have re-signed, but WWE is keeping it quiet? Yes. Though it would mean Becky directly lying. Jason says, hello, any word on when Roman is coming back? And thanks. I appreciate that you ask a question with a thanks in it. It's always very nice. Jason, Roman Reigns, I'm not expecting to see at any point, at least before SummerSlam. But honestly, when it comes to Roman Reigns, and I've been reporting this one for a while, I was the first to report he was taking this break, he is very low on dates remaining with his current contract. He overworked essentially the beginning of this year and particularly the beginning of last year, and he's running very low on dates left for this contract. So they may make it last a little bit longer. Carl says, I want to see Baron Corbin get a push on Raw or SmackDown. He's an absolute hero. I do think they'd make a very good tag team to continue on the main roster as well. Spider-Boss says, Chad Gable reminds me of Yunker Angle, which is true of many years now. Dylan says, I really wish they would go back to the original draft, which was a bingo style, where they pick a number at random and announce who's going to Raw or SmackDown. No intention of doing that. Spider-Boss says, when we could see the Kabuki Warriors versus Bianca and Jade for the women's tag team titles. As I mentioned and reported on Twitter, they are clearly building towards that as we speak. Blue says, Austin taking it back the next night was so awesome though. I feel like those 2 title changes made me believe anything could happen in the WWF at the time. And they did that largely because of the threat of WCW. Blue says, Roman's dates are overall and not yearly specific. Bit of both. If he overworks 1 year, it will be taken out of the next year. Isaiah says, who are the WWE stars who are released have potential to return? It depends what they do. It's entirely up to them. Maggie says, I hope we don't lose Roman to Holly Weird. You already have. And Shifty says, it DIY's time tonight. We'll see, won't we? We'll have to watch the show. Rossi Ogawa. Rossi Ogawa has invited Kairi Sane and Io Sky to work with him at Marigold and make special appearances. The WWE will be making their decision as to it, but from what I can tell, Io Sky and Kairi Sane are not particularly interested, and upon being approached by Rossi Ogawa personally, they turned him down. Now that doesn't mean WWE won't eventually say, you're going to have to do it anyway, but they turned him down. And I just find that very interesting. Rossi Ogawa has been turned down by Io Sky and Kairi Sane, but again, the WWE will eventually make their decisions. Rossi Ogawa has not in any way shown any interest in bringing Asuka in. And I believe that is one of the main reasons that the WWE have essentially been told, we don't want to work with this man, by a large portion of the locker room, including Becky Lynch. JJ says, hey Tom, since Becky and Seth's contract negotiations are separate now, do you see them giving her a contract like Roman's, since that's what she wants? Unrelated matter. The fact that they are separate now does not actually impact it. Jess says, Asuka does not like that man, so it doesn't surprise me that Kairi and Io don't. Joey says, did they turn it down because of Rossi's past problems with Asuka? I don't know why. I cannot say why, but I do know it happened. Ed says, I'm guessing this has connection to the alluded issues that Kenny Omega mentioned on Friday on his Twitch stream. It does indeed. I cannot confirm a lot of what has been said and a lot of what is being said to me directly. And until I can, I will not be reporting it. Spider Boss says, do you think if Becky wins the title would only be a transitional title reign? Yeah. Dylan says, personally, I only see Roman wrestling for at least 2 more years, then going full to Hollywood, and I think it's because Roman knows he's done everything he possibly can in WWE. How do you come back after that championship reign? Genuine question. I don't know if he can. We only have a few pieces of news left to get through. We have about 10 minutes left of the show anyway. 3 pieces of news. We have 75 likes and 114 people watching. Is it possible to get that 75 up to an 80? Up to an 80. If we can get there, I'll be a very happy boy. Also, if you are interested at all in channel membership or making a donation to the channel, please be aware that when it comes to those at the moment, what I'm doing with the income from the channel, it's going directly to repairs to a house that I am now buying. So if you are not interested in supporting that particular venture, you are of course welcome to veer away from any donations at this point in time. When it comes to channel membership, we have a number of members only videos that hopefully you'll quite enjoy. I did toy briefly with the idea of posting things there and then releasing them a couple of days later on the main channel, but I don't want to paywall news, so I don't really want to do that. What I have done is a few behind the scenes elements of me making videos, making shorts and the like, as well as some more in-depth analysis when it comes to the TV deals, etc, etc. So if that's of interest to you, please do consider diving in, but be aware of where that income is going. I'm trying to buy a house at current, and one of the main reasons is that this particular house has some issues. It has a few issues. The main reason is that I'll be able to move in with my 2 children and my partner. I met them 2.5 years ago. I then became a stepdad, and it's been the honour of my life. I think I was made for this. I genuinely do. So I'm thrilled to be getting a house for them and to be trying to put myself in a position whereby I can make sure my children never rent, never go hungry, and never afraid to turn on the heating. I'm 35 years old. I'm 36 in 3 months. And I've lived through some very difficult times. I have an opportunity now to ensure that my children do not have the same issues. So for anyone who's already donated, everyone who's looked at an ad today, thank you. It genuinely means the world to me. Oof. Aled says, I'm not a fan that Mercedes Money automatically gets a title shot for her first match when they have a ranking system, but it's a big name, so I get it. I just don't like it. Let's talk about good old-fashioned AEW, because I've got 3 things to mention there. All of them are AEW adjacent. So I'm going to start with Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay apparently regrets cutting the promo that he cut against Triple H on, I believe it was Dynamite, a few weeks ago. It did not work out well for him, and he would very much like you to stop asking questions about it. Will Ospreay, particularly in his time in AEW, is having to field a lot more questions from reporters, and it's really changing his approach overall to his presentation. Will Ospreay has some regrets when it comes to cutting that promo. As regards Mercedes, I did report many moons ago that of the many people she wants to work with, Julia Hart was one of them. That name will eventually come back around. But if you remember, sorry, bear with me. I did report that Mercedes Money was going to be going after the TBS Championship and not the AEW Women's World Championship. This, of course, has now come to fruition. The idea is that the Women's World Championship will still have a segment constantly, but while Mercedes Money is trying desperately to make sure there is more women on AEW, the best thing she could do, and a choice that she made, was to stay away from the Women's World Championship and to try and give the secondary championship more airtime, thus ensuring that more women are on the show. Tony Khan agreed to this, and that is why she is now going to be chasing the Women's Championship for the TBS Championship. She is likely to win this championship and start an open challenge. She'll be the champion for a while. There has been talk of a Roman Reigns level championship run. Blue says, are Io and Kairi's problems with Rossi, or are they simply happy working in the US? Seems Rossi had a decent relationship with Kyrie and Io over the years. Once again, I am not able to share any reasoning beyond what I've already said. Shifty says, Ghost of Madness and Zero News reported his Nia wins confirm. Remember that, Shifty. I want you to remember that, because by the end of tonight, you will know. Mixu says, hi Tom. From all the journos out there on Twitter, I find Sean Sapp as the most idiotic and weirdest one. I mean, each to their own. I've had him blocked for about 4 years, and it's made my timeline a lot better. Spiderbot says, who do you see taking the AEW women's title from Toni Storm? I'm not sure yet. Isaiah says, with blood and swearing now being featured, will WWE go to TV 14 or TV MA when they move to Netflix? No. Mazar says 2022 and 2023 have probably been the two craziest years when it comes to news in wrestling. Do you think 2024 will be more crazy or more chill? Much more chill. Maggie says Roman said he's so many more things he wants to do in wrestling and elevating the business. Silvic says, would Bianca and Jade be fighting tag champs assuming they would win those titles from Kabuki Warriors? Yes, they would. Mustafa says, I just want to say, who the hell would have an issue with you using money for your house? Like what? Some people do. And I just in case, I want to be transparent about that. Thank you for the 80 likes, everyone. We just hit 80 likes. We've got it to 352 views. We've had more than 100 viewers for a while now. It's the likes, guys. You guys are nailing it. You guys are making this show a success. But some people do. And I just want to be transparent. If they don't want to support that, that's an option available to them. I'm no longer in a position where I desperately need to do this to pay the bills. I can do this for fun, and any income can go towards ensuring my children's future. Some people would rather just support someone who's desperately in need, because there are still plenty of people out there who are. I don't blame them for it. Dylan says, do you see Roman and Seth ever rekindling and potentially teaming up, or will it be Roman versus Seth at some point when Roman returns? Both. Wiggly, very personal question. Tristan says, do you ever see Charlotte and Becky winning the tag team titles from Jade and Bianca? No. Maggie says, I hope you get your house, Tom. You deserve it. You sound like a wonderful star. I appreciate you for that, Maggie. That's a very nice thing to say. The house is going swimmingly. Only something catastrophic going wrong would stop it now. Very early, Dylan. Spiderball says, I thought Mercedes was going to face Julia Hart, but the story is right there, with Mercedes Money getting her revenge after she lost against Willow last year. Mercedes will eventually face Julia Hart. Michael says, AEW doesn't always follow the ranking, just like WWE doesn't always follow the brand split. The other Mike says, I love the fact that you say I don't know to stuff that you don't know, instead of speculating and making up stuff like others we know. Yeah, I don't think it's difficult to just say, yeah, I don't know, I'm not sure, etc., etc. Or to say something like, I'm not reporting, I'm not confirming, I'm just sharing an opinion. I do speculate at times. I do. And I don't mind that. But I always make it very clear that I'm not reporting when that happens. There's a lot of people out there who claim to be journalists who are just throwing shit at a wall and seeing if it sticks. I mean, you remember Boozer, right? Where'd they go? Honestly, whenever you see an account saying, just make sure you follow me because I'm going to go private for my news, they're just desperately trying to get follows as a tactic. Robin Dave says, you're welcome, Tom. After all the news you've given us, you deserve it. Thank you kindly. Alex says, do you know the time frame for Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter's returns? No, I don't have a source in that particular area. Blue says, Mercedes' momentum is so dead, whatever she's doing, it ain't working. Give it time. It's still very, very early days. Jess says, when a Mercedes Money, Mercedes Martinez going to have a match for the Mercedes Championship? Oh, I like that, Jess. Blue says, Hayter wins the title at Wembley if she's healthy. Maggie says, lovely transparency, Tom, very honest. Thank you, appreciate that. No, Snee Vegas, you live under a bridge. Respect it. Mixu says, is Punk cleared or close to? No. Not even close. Blue says, who wins tonight? Should be dependent on when Rhea's back. If she's back by SummerSlam, put it on Liv. If it's next year, have Liv chase Becky while turning full heel. No super long Liv run, please. And Sid said, Goldberg not interested in signing with AEW. Says, product is too cheesy. Source F4W Online, which is a Wrestling Observer. Thank you for sourcing. This is my last piece of news as well. What the hell, Goldberg? To be clear, to be very clear here, Goldberg for years has been trying to get back into the WWE, but under Triple H, he's simply not interested in anything Goldberg related. So Goldberg has now started burning bridges and insulting people like Asuka, who in no way deserve it. Now, he's realised that AEW aren't interested either, so what's he doing? He's going after them. This is a dumb move. He's burning bridges, and I suspect long term, He's going to work about as often and as high profile as Alberto Del Rio. You know, Alberto Del Rio keeps popping up and saying, hey, WWE want me back, and then they just never sign him. Liar. Joey says, do you think Goldberg and Ronda have burnt all bridges with WWE? Goldberg has, Ronda has not. Triple H would work with her again, but the contract would need to be very different. Very different indeed. It's one of those where they have the plan. If she returns, they can make it work. They just don't want to. Sid said, have you met any wrestlers? Quite a few, yeah. The most high profile, undoubtedly, is when I was meeting Triple H. I've had interviews with Triple H 3 times after NXT UK Cardiff, before NXT UK Blackpool 2, and after NXT UK Blackpool 2. Also interviewed William Regal as part of a group. And met individual wrestlers, such as interviewing Gunter and JD McDonough, Piper Niven. That was lovely. That was absolutely lovely. Kaylee Ray. I love Kaylee Ray. And several others along the way. Cesaro. Now Claudio, of course. Claudio Castagnoli. Nikki Cross. Cedric Alexander. Met a few. I've had fun. Joey says, have you heard anything on TNA wanting to bring Tessa back? All I know is that conversations happened. I don't really have anything I want to add after that. Blue says, it might be early for Mercedes, but no one is talking about her anymore. Not true. Not true. She did come in with hype. Let's not pretend otherwise. She did come in with hype. I do think she needs to get into the wrestling ring sooner rather than later, but I'm not one for this massive short-termism. Like, she's got a long time. I ain't rushing no one, and if she needs a bit of match fitness, let her do it. Juan says, Tessa Blanchard also burned some bridges, hence why WWE and AEW passed on her. Yep. Sophic says, why is Tessa rumoured to be back on TNA? She's not rumoured to be back on TNA. The rumour is that TNA have had discussions about potentially bringing her back, and that came from PWInsider. Alex says, I miss Charlotte Flair, something I never thought I'd say. Maggie's a big fan of Piper and Nikki. Me too. And Joey says, feels like TNA has gone downhill since Scott D'Amore's firing. They did have a plan. They had a big plan. They were going to bring in Mercedes money. They were going to bring in CM Punk. They were going to bring in Will Ospreay. Did not work. We are going to wrap it up there. We've been live for just over an hour. We will, of course, be live again on Friday. And on Wednesday, all of my draft predictions will go live with PLE Wednesdays. Until then, hope you've enjoyed the show tonight. Hope everyone has a very good night. I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic, and I will see you all very soon.